What's up, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin Fights. This is our weekly UFC Roundup after that crazy night at UFC 262. Tom, I think you got a little bit of apologizing to do to your fans.
First of all, I got to apologize to absolutely nobody. Listen, we took a little bit of a beating, hence the glasses and the incognito mode. I do have a point of clarification. Chance, come on, buddy. I do have a point of clarification that some of these picks I'm taking because we have to talk about them, and some are true locks. I have a roommate. His name is Evan. I gave him my locks, and he was up $75 by night's end. So instead of holding those close to the vest, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my locks with you guys moving forward. And then if I'm either way and I wouldn't put my own money on it, I'll make sure to let you guys know. My apologies about that and not making that known earlier. That being said, still undefeated with my locks. So,
Yeah, well, you didn't clarify them beforehand. So, let's just say we don't have any locks yet. This week we will have locks. I, on the other hand, went 2-0 just fading you on my own with that, right? You took Mike Grundy over Vannata. Personally, on the cards, I thought Mike Grundy could have won that fight. He kept taking down Lando over and over again, but Lando kept getting up, running away. He got his shots in when he needed to. It was, kind of a good tactical fight.
It was a close fight.
Good tactical fight from Lando. He knew exactly what he needed to do to get the win on the cards. And then the other one, look, you had nobody saw this one coming whatsoever. Like, we had no foresight into the Jacare Souza fight that he was going to break his arm just rolling around.
You know what? And I listen, it's not even like the Chris Weidman fight where Uriah Hall put his leg out to he defended it. It was just this Jacare thing was a freak accident. It's kind of like saying, oh yeah, I picked Leon Edwards to beat what's his name? Bilal Muhammad.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that was just like a freak thing. Like, yeah, I mean, I guess he technically won, but like
Did Leon get the W on paper for that fight? Wow,
yeah.
It's a bunch of baloney.
So, I would say the same thing here. And I also, now I'm always going to root against Andre Muniz because, after a freak accident like that, to run around and celebrate like, you just kick someone's ass, I think is in real poor taste. You look at how Uriah, who actually, probably did something to deserve a win there. Granted, it was one strike and all he did is he defended it, but he did defend it. So he does get credit. If anyone's going to celebrate, I would say Uriah Hall has more of a leg to stand on, no pun intended, to celebrate there than, Andre Muniz. And I'm probably saying his name wrong, but, I don't know if I care to correct it at this point because he was kind of a dick. Also, how crazy is Jacare to have his forearm snapped and his shoulder dislocated and then be like, okay, well, whatever. Like he stood there and you didn't see an ounce of pain on his face. Even Tony, when he got his knee popped, he like showed emotion, which he never does. So
it really speaks to what we were saying about Jacare the last time that we were talking with Pat on the show, and just talking about his mental toughness and how good of a grappler he is, really. And I kind of thought he was winning that fight up until that happened.
Yeah.
But Muniz should have definitely taken a page out of Uriah Hall's book because Uriah, like you said, he won that fight clear cut, like perfect leg kick check. That's just what happens sometimes when you check those kicks. In Muniz's case, what are you doing, man? Freak accident, like you said. Don't celebrate. At least show a little bit of compassion for the guy who just got hurt, whose career could potentially be in jeopardy now because of his age, because of his losing streak. Just don't be a jerk about it. That's hands down number one. Take a page out of Uriah Hall's book in a situation like that. But while we're talking about our records from the week, I also did go 3-4 on the main card. 3 out of my 4 prop bets also hit. Unfortunately, the big one, the guy that I'm the biggest fan of on this card, he did go down pretty tragically. But we'll get into that in a few seconds. First, we're going to talk about the Edson Barboza, Shane Burgos fight, what a fight from those two guys. We did say it had the potential to be the fight of the night candidate, and it was.
It was,
And,
right?
yeah, and incredible knockout, not even just from Barboza, but on Burgos' end to get hit with that shot straight in the temple and tell his brain I'm not going down for like 3 seconds after it.
6 seconds.
6 seconds. Wow, it was
6 seconds. He fought off a KO somehow. Miraculous.
Yeah, we were talking last week about how he's got an incredible chin. He can absorb a lot of stuff, and he did in that fight. There were a lot of strikes in there where Edson Barboza would have put a lot of other dudes down. And I mean, the fact that you're able to just say like, nope, not going down, not going down. Okay, we're going down. But that ability to fight it off for as long as he did after a hit like that,
yeah,
insane. I can't imagine how many other shots he's absorbed in his career where he's just had the toughness to say, I'm not going down, I'm not getting knocked out. But, Barboza, man, that guy still has it. And he's on a bit of a win streak now in the featherweight division.
Yes, sir.
I think you can put him up against some of the top 5 guys now, and he'll really emerge in the public eye as a great fighter.
Yeah, I mean, I think he absolutely deserves it. And, through round 1 and through round 2, I felt very confident in Barboza. I didn't see what the scorecards were. I don't know if they were released, but I guarantee you he was winning on the scorecards for those first 2 rounds. I did get nervous when he had that leg injury and he was bleeding from his shin. As you saw in the 3rd round, he definitely wasn't throwing it. And he even had such a problem with it. He tried to throw with his lead leg and lost his balance a couple times. So I remember sitting there going, oh my God, well, this is Burgos' fight to win now. You have a guy who can't use his back leg, and a lot of things, a lot of your power comes from that back leg. That being said, he still somehow mustered enough power to put out Shane Burgos, who has probably one of the best chins in the UFC. Like we saw, he was fighting off a KO. I didn't know that was possible. And like you said, how many other times did he do that actually successfully? Maybe in that fight, in prior fights. So all that being said, I think that it's even more of a testament to Barboza. He's 35 years old, so he's right on the cusp of, hey, this might be problematic. And usually as you go, later in your career, you'll kind of move up because those weight cuts get harder and harder. That being said, the only person on this card who really had a problem cutting weight was Beneil Dariush. Which, he'd taken the extra hour, he made it, no problem. So didn't seem like, Barboza had much issue with the weight cut. He's looked really good. He's 3-0. He outstruck Shane Burgos. I want to see him get a top 5 guy. I think he was rated number 9 going into that fight. I'd love to see him get a top 5 guy. I don't think Max has an opponent, and that being said, I think Max definitely deserves maybe, Volkanovski, but he's kind of already in line to fight Brian Ortega, right? Because of the Ultimate Fighter.
Oh man, what a season that'll be! I hope those two have beef after the event. Dana White.
Apparently they had a scrap,
Yeah, I love to hear it, man. The Ultimate Fighter, that's like my favorite reality TV show. Probably the only reality TV show I watch, and just because
I like Big Brother. Big fan of Big Brother.
Yeah. Well, I haven't watched that one, but it looks a little weird. But,
I submitted my tape. CBS, if you're watching, this guy.
Yeah, we got a good on-camera personality over here with this guy, Tom. Put him on your show. Or who knows? Maybe you should submit a tape to the Ultimate Fighter, man.
My nose is entirely too big. I would be like Rory McDonald versus Robbie Lawler. No, sir. I like breathing personally and thinking.
Right. Well, yeah, but as you were saying, testament to Edson Barboza, how crazy this dude is having a second wind in his career by moving down in weight class. And, it really speaks volumes to Burgos. I was impressed with Edson Barboza's striking, incredible dominant fight from him. But just Burgos, just the willpower and the mental toughness. Who's seen that before? It's crazy. All right, so next one we got to talk about, Caitlin Chookagian. We called that fight perfectly. Just like we did with the last one. We said that was going to be a fight that wouldn't go the distance, potentially in under rounds at 2.5. Both of those bets hit. So if you're tailing us, you are very, very welcome. I hope you made a lot of money on that one. Chookagian, we called her to win by decision. I wouldn't even say that was a dominating fight from her. There were a few moments when Araujo gave her some issues. But all in all, we called it. Win by decision on Chookagian. Do you give her Valentina next?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so either, but
I mean, listen, it doesn't matter. Like, Valentina is very similar to an Amanda Nunes in the fact that's like, who are you going to give them in their divisions that's going to be meaningful? Amanda Nunes, like, you have Kayla Harrison over in the PFL, but then again, you'd have to really, really entice Kayla Harrison to leave, monetarily. And I would say maybe she deserves it. And Dana White now saying, oh, well, I don't know if she's ready. But again, like, she's winning $1 million per year, in the Grand Prix, or the playoffs as they call it.
Right.
I don't know what she's getting per fight, but that's not a bad living, dude. She fights 2-3 times, makes $1 million plus,
Right.
and it's really not much of a competition. Now, I mean, the competitor in her maybe wants to go fight Amanda Nunes to be the best in the world. But that being said, like, you're going to have to really try to entice Kayla Harrison to come over. Outside of that, you have Amanda Nunes, and she's taken on all comers, and it really hasn't been close. Same thing with Valentina. The women's, what is it? The bantamweight division, or the 115 division. We have Rose and Weili Zhang. That's a very interesting division, but it kind of falls off besides them. Then you move up, you have Valentina, and then you have Amanda Nunes, who has the top two divisions. So, the UFC really needs to get some better, some real challengers to take out those three champions in those four divisions.
Yeah, I mean, I would definitely kind of give you a little bit of pushback on that comment about the 125 division. You do have Joanna. I feel like she's up there. She's always ready to try and take somebody's belt. She has held that belt, so
she lost to Rose twice.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, she has beaten her, right?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. Well, still, I mean, she's up there, in my opinion.
She's definitely up there, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, again, that's an interesting division, right? You have a couple good people, but we're talking about Shevchenko. And
of course, yeah, that's a totally different story.
She hasn't made anything really interesting. I mean, no knock on her, but her fights aren't interesting. She's just too good, So, like, yeah, I mean, you can throw Chookagian at her, but, like, is it going to be a fight that, like, I'd put all of my money on Valentina by TKO.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it probably still minus odds, but it's not going to be like a very interesting fight. We're just going to watch another Valentina Shevchenko. Oh, by the way, I just want to say, I did say this on the last podcast. I've tweeted it. If you're not following me, make sure you follow me. There can only be one dominant sibling at a time. Can only be one. Nate and Nick were never good at the same time. The Pettis brothers, never good at the same time. And now we see it again with the Shevchenko sisters. Not good at the same time. Antonina, like, I guess she's okay. She's solid. She's in the UFC, so that says something. But, nowhere near her sister. And I completely abandoned my previous mindset a couple fights ago. We're like, oh, Amanda Nunes' wife is fighting. Her training with Amanda has to rub off in some capacity. Didn't. Antonina training with Valentina has to rub off at some point. Doesn't. So, yeah, listen, if you ever see a sibling fighting and it's not the dominant sibling, pick against them.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, she did get Antonina. She got subbed by Andrea Lee. And,
Good for Andrea Lee. Good for her. Got off to the hump.
Yeah, especially against an opponent with the last name Shevchenko, because, like, even though she is
in Texas,
the worst of the two sisters, there is that name recognition there that will kind of help you catapult into a little bit of a public spotlight, give you that name recognition fight. But yeah, you're right. And back to just what you were saying about, getting people over from other leagues potentially to fight, people like Nunes and Shevchenko. We were talking to Pat about this last week. You're literally putting your body on the line with the sport between the weight cuts and just getting cracked in the face, getting your ligaments torn up by submissions and stuff. So there does need to be a monetary incentive to get those people over to the UFC. And I don't think that Dana White publicly, at least not on his part, but like the public negotiations with John Jones isn't really helping his case whatsoever. I think if he were to pay some of these guys a lot more money, or some of these women, you would automatically incentivize a lot of people to come over from the other leagues. But they do have, true or not, a reputation for kind of being a little bit stingy now. So you're right on that point.
That being said, if I could just push back on that, UFC is obviously the biggest promotion in the world.
Right.
And because of that, you're going to get more eyeballs when you fight, which helps you outside of the cage with sponsorships. A lot of these guys have guys and girls, they have YouTube channels. So having that, fighting in the biggest promotion in the world can definitely help in that capacity. You're going to get followers on Twitter, on Instagram from these fights. You get to be interviewed by DC or Joe Rogan or Paul Felder, all these guys, so you're rubbing elbows with them. All that being said, I do think there is something to be said about fighting in the UFC. I don't know if it's purely monetary. You're definitely right that, obviously money has to do it with it. Money makes the world go round. But you're not going to get the money outside the octagon in any other promotion the way you're going to get it at the UFC.
No, you're 100% right about that. The next fight that happened on this card that, it was kind of a surprise to me. It wasn't even booked to be on the main card for a while. There was Mike Schnell versus Rogerio Bontorin. Not much to say about that except that Bontorin made Schnell look kind of silly. Tough fight for him. Bontorin just went out there and just outstruck him, had him on his butt a couple times. It's tough. It's really tough when you go out there against a guy like Bontorin, who, you look at him on paper and he's not very tall. He's not very imposing whatsoever. And then he goes out there and just cracks you in the face a whole bunch of times. Do you have anything to say about that fight?
Not really. No,
Yeah.
You kind of said it all. Bontorin came out there. He kind of outclassed Schnell. Schnell, who's like a moderate name, a little bit recognizable. I believe he was on The Ultimate Fighter. And Bontorin, who kind of really wasn't a known name, that's big for him. It's big for his career to come out and take a guy who has a somewhat recognizable name and basically thoroughly outclass him like that. Good on Bontorin. I'd like to see him fight against him,
especially on a card like this. It's UFC 262. Everybody was watching it. Definitely good for catapulting his name out there into the public eye a bit more. One of the biggest fights that we have to spend a little bit of time talking about, Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. I mean, what a terrible, terrible loss for Tony Ferguson. Complete and utter domination.
He was close with the Dars. He did almost get that Dars, but
he came close. He definitely
incredible calmness by Beneil to get out of it. Chance, come on, pal.
Yeah, I mean, we were just talking about should focus more on his grappling game. I remember myself saying that last week. You're like, nah.
No, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he needs to focus on his Brazilian jiu-jitsu. The same thing happened to him against Charles, dominated on the ground. Now it's a second fight against Beneil where he's just getting out grappled by these dudes, and they're just putting all their weight on him, and he can't move, And, we did talk about Tony's mental toughness and submissions. Beneil had him in a crazy heel hook. And what was it?
Blew his knee apart.
Yeah, I don't even know how you come back from an injury like that because his knee is never going to be the same after that. But
his elbow was never going to be the same too. After the fight with Charles Oliveira.
I will say though that fight against Oliveira, he didn't scream at the top of his lungs like it looked like he did in this Beneil fight.
So that being said, a scream counts as a verbal submission. A wince does not. So he must not have let anything verbally out.
Gotcha.
So, he winced like hard twice. And we barely ever see emotion from Tony inside the cage unless he's smiling with someone else's blood all over him.
Right.
So him wince. I mean, he definitely tore his knee apart. Beneil said at the end, he's like, I don't know what's wrong with that guy's head, but his knee popped and it popped loud and it popped aggressively. I felt it. I don't know how he didn't tap. Listen, I tweeted this too. Tony is more of like a video game character at this point where like you can hurt him, right? And then a couple seconds later, that health bar kind of fills back up. I don't know what's wrong in this guy's head that he just like can't, he literally, his hand doesn't do this motion or whatever. But, Listen, I'm good. And I like what Beneil said at the end. He's like, listen, if you're a Tony fan, always root for Tony. You always did. And now that he's down or now that he's not as good as he was, there is something to be said that, these 3 losses, they're not bad losses. I mean, he did get utterly dominated, but in terms of the competition, it's not like he's losing to guys that he really should beat, right?
Right.
To your point, why did he not work on jiu-jitsu against a guy who's regarded as one of the best jiu-jitsu underrated practitioners in the UFC, definitely in the lightweight division? I mean, you get your Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt in 5 years and win Brazilian jiu-jitsu. He won, I believe it was a no-gi championship and a gi championship. Beneil did. So when you're going against a guy like that, why are you working your boxing?
Right. This is
I
exactly
get
what I was saying, and I got pushback from you two guys last time. Like, well, he is a black belt. This man is really suffering in the grappling game right now, and this is 2 fights in a row we've seen this from him.
I'd love to see him against, give him a striker, give him someone. I mean, him versus Paul Felder would be a really good matchup. 2 guys that, you give Tony the chance to get off the schneid and maybe work his way back. But again, I don't see Tony at this point in his career, unless this is, just a really, really incredible, unfortunate event. I mean, you go against Justin Gaethje, one of the top strikers. You go against Oliveira, one of the if not the top Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy, and you have Beneil, who's, criminally underrated. It's possible that, Tony's taken a step back, but we think it's worse than it is because of the level of competition he's facing. That being said, those guys aren't going away. So if he's losing those 3, Tony's just not a top 5 guy anymore. And it pains us to say that, but neither is Cowboy. And people still love to watch Cowboy fight.
Yeah, and that's the biggest takeaway for me, especially from that press conference afterwards, is like, after Cowboy lost, Dana was like, we're going to give Cowboy one more shot. He deserves it. And when he was asked about Tony, he said, well, Father Time catches up to everybody. I don't know if he's going to get that top 5 fight, anybody in the top 10 really anymore, because he really looks to be down and out. And just back to what you were saying about the verbal scream, that really just kind of speaks to your deep knowledge of the show, of the sport. If you're watching this right now and you're questioning what we know at all, Tom clearly is way more in depth on this sport than I am. I'm still, in terms of, fandom, still a little bit relatively new, but it is tough to tell when there's the crowd in the building again. I got so used to those the Abu Dhabi fights and the Apex fights with no crowd in the building, and you can hear even what these guys are saying to their coaches.
I do miss that.
So, yeah, I do kind of miss that to some degree. I like that they're continuing the fight nights in the Apex, but that really speaks volumes to your knowledge, especially of jiu-jitsu. But what do you think is next for Beneil? I mean, I think that they have to really start putting him up against some high-level competition, because this man has shown what he can do. He's on a crazy win streak now. This is the only one in a couple of fights that's been by decision. I mean, his last couple of wins have either, I think, the 5 wins he had before this, 2 came by knockout, 2 came by submission. Some crazy moves, especially with those knockouts with a spinning back fist. I really think that you can put him up against a guy like Justin Gaethje now. And I think that might be the fight to make.
Well, here's the question. All right, we have a third host today, and it's Chance. He won't leave me alone.
In the hot seat.
Chance, what do you think, pal? Okay. Listen, I really don't like what's going on in the lightweight division. You have all these guys who refuse to fight, and that goes for Colby Covington in the welterweight division too, just sitting back and assuming he's going to get, the rematch title shot just because he gave the champ a hard time. Gaethje doesn't even really have that. He got second round submitted by Khabib, and Khabib submitted him via arm triangle because he knew that Gaethje wasn't going to tap in front of his family and didn't want to break his arm.
Yeah.
That shows that when you can have that level of, critical thinking mid-fight against the basically unanimously appointed number 1 contender, no one's going to hold a candle to Khabib right now.
No.
Why does Gaethje think he can just sit back and wait for his fight, especially so now you have Oliveira with the belt, right?
Yeah.
Oliveira's, should Conor win, you bet your ass he's going to want Conor. Why? Money. At this point he's got the belt. I believe he's probably his confidence level is at an all-time high, knocking out Chandler, who everyone thought had a superior stand-up game than him. So he knocked out the guy that he was supposed to get KO'd by. So his stand-up game obviously needs credit. It needs its due credit. So yeah, and listen, if I'm Oliveira, I'm like, yeah, give me Conor. I'll take his ass down and I'll submit him. Conor's main weakness, but at least before the Poirier fight, was that he really doesn't have a great ground game. Submitted by Khabib, submitted by Nate Diaz. If I'm Charles Oliveira, I'm praying that Conor wins. I think it's an easier fight for Charles. Like, it's a harder fight for Conor against Charles than it would be against Michael Chandler.
There is
against Michael Chandler, he's got the reach advantage.
Right.
He's probably quicker. He's got that active front leg. Not to say that it would be an easy fight, but if we're talking about styles make matchups, dude, if you're Conor, you really don't want Charles Oliveira.
No,
so now Gaethje knows that the odds, if Poirier beats Conor for a second time, well, Poirier has to get the title shot because he's been active. You can't reward somebody who hasn't been active like Gaethje in favor of someone who has been active like Poirier, who clearly deserves it. So Gaethje has to get somebody. Give him Beneil. He's got to accept some fight. Like, especially with Trevor Whitman just is on a roll. Why not emphasize how good Trevor Whitman has 3 fighters and 2 of them are champions, right? So to have Gaethje just sit back and not do anything, he really needs to get a fight. I don't know how quick Beneil's going to want to turn around here. I mean, he did just have a baby, and I think he said November or December. If I'm Gaethje, I want to get in there now because I want to put my name needs to be in the ring for that championship discussion. And right now it can't be because of his inactivity.
Yeah, well, you have to keep in mind, too, like, who manages Justin Gaethje. It is Ali Abdelaziz. And
of course it is. I'm just going to default to that now. Like, if anyone asks me, like, who manages, probably Ali, probably.
Yeah. I mean, we see this with a lot of the guys that he represents where it's like, oh, title or nothing. And I think that definitely plays a factor when you have a guy like Ali in your ear telling you, like, yo, it's the title shot or you're not going to go out and fight. Justin Gaethje is a big enough name right now. But I also don't think that you can give him a shot at the belt immediately after, he just got beat by the last guy that had the belt. It doesn't really seem fair to guys in the UFC that have consistently been coming out, fighting, getting wins, building up their resume. It's tough to put anybody that lost to the last champ up in a title fight right now.
Right now. But this is the thing. I thought that Gaethje should have gotten the chance, Gaethje should have been included in that fight. I mean, to give it to Chandler after one, it really should have been Gaethje versus Oliveira. I think was the fight to make.
The whole reason for that, though, is because if anybody that lost to Khabib went in there and won that on Saturday, the automatic argument would have been paper champ, which is an argument that I kind of have for Oliveira personally, but
it's always going to be an argument because.
How is this guy the deserving champ after losing to the actual champ of the lightweight division? I kind of see it from the matchmaking perspective where it's like you don't want to piss off the fans, and you do have to kind of honor and respect Khabib's legacy to some degree as well. Like him and Dana are close friends. I'm sure that there was a little bit of input from Khabib there, where he called him up and was like, yo, what do you think, about this fight? I think that if you throw a guy like Justin Gaethje in there, it does kind of make it seem like they're kind of shitting on Khabib a little bit, where it's like, okay, this guy that you easily, handily beat is now worthy of your title. That's not true, and we all know that.
So, I don't agree with that take at all.
Just from a matchmaking perspective, though, because when you think about it, they could have really put anybody out there for this fight. Why did they pick a guy who never fought Khabib, 2 guys that never fought Khabib? Well, it's for that exact reason.
I mean, listen, I'm not saying that wasn't why they did it. That very well could be. You know what I mean? I'm not saying you're wrong for, thinking that's why they did it. I'm saying I disagree with that whole line of thinking. Yeah. Like, this guy was good enough to fight for the title. Yeah, he got beat by the pound for pound best fighter right now, potentially ever. That being said, that guy's no longer in the UFC. We can't think about him anymore. He's not in the UFC. He was good enough to fight for the title 6 months ago. Why is he not now?
Yeah, it's
he's the number one contender. Just because he loses to the best guy ever, that automatically makes him not worthy of the title. I don't understand that line of thinking.
He'll definitely be back. You know, there's no question.
He's got to fight somebody, and I'm telling you, I hate this inactivity that we're seeing from guys like Colby Covington, from guys like Justin Gaethje, from guys like fucking Aljamain Sterling. Don't get me started on Aljo. You want to talk about paper champ? You want to talk about paper champ?
Yeah. That guy, I don't even let him cross my mind anymore. You know, his chirping on Twitter, I'm pretty sure I have him muted at this point because it's just so arrogant for no reason. You know, the guy talks more than anybody, and he was losing that fight against Peter Yan all the way through. We could go through that a million times. I feel like we've touched on it almost every episode of the show, how Aljamain is just such a joke in the UFC right now. But you know, I just think that was the only reason for them was just let's put up two guys who never fought the last champ. I know for a fact that Justin Gaethje will be back. He'll get another win somewhere. He has to fight someone other than a champ right now. Like, that's just how this sport works, you know? You have to pay your dues, and then you get that championship bout. He had his chance. He lost. It's just tough to throw him out there right now. But with that being said, talking about this title fight, sorry, Mike Chandler. That was rough to watch, man. Charles Oliveira, who would have thought that a win for him would have come by knockout? I mean, I was thinking that the only way that he wins this fight was submission. He almost had it at one point, too. You know, Chandler had him in a not pretty good, it was a half-guard guillotine, which everybody's like, yo, how does a guy like why does he think that he's going to beat a guy like Charles Oliveira with a half-guard guillotine? But he's lost to two in the past. This would have been number 3. So in terms of just tactics and what Chandler was thinking out there, very well thought out fight, but he did get clipped by that one shot that really put him on his heels and put him up against the fence for a complete onslaught from Charles. I'm a big Chandler fan. I think another fight that you could make, honestly, would be Beneil versus Chandler. I think that would be a very good fight to watch.
I think it's going to be largely depending on just how soon these guys want to fight. And that's kind of the variable. That's the X factor here that really only the UFC knows. You know, Beneil's having a baby girl in a couple weeks. Hopefully he gets his Tesla. Also, let's give credit to Beneil. Oh, yeah. Dude, he won me over as a fan. You know, I wasn't a huge fan of him. I wasn't very high on him coming in because of that kind of nonchalant attitude. But come on. How funny, how awesome was that post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, and how great was he at the post-fight press conference too, giving Tony all the credit, being like, hey, listen, Tony's a tough guy. If you're fans of Tony, make sure you don't abandon him. He's a good fighter. He's the toughest mind in the UFC. Calling out, you know, Elon Musk, that was hilarious.
When he's saying, I want to call somebody out. I was at a fight party and I was like, yo, shh.
Shut up. Who's he calling out?
This. I thought he was going to actually call somebody out, like, seriously. But, you know, that was just hilarious. Great comedic moment.
Yeah.
In a way, I'm glad I told everyone to be quiet because everybody in the room got a laugh.
You would have missed it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I would love to see Beneil fight again. I just don't think he's going to want to. He said, you know, November, December, and you got to appreciate that. You know, he's having a baby girl. You got to take some time off. You know, you don't want to go right back into a fight camp. I don't think, you know, beating a semi-old Tony at this point warrants you for a title shot right away, at least not in such a cluster of a division. So, you know, I think that would be the only way that he would try to come back, you know, faster than he had expected is if he got the title shot. So you take that away. You know, looking at these lightweight rankings. So yeah, Charles Oliveira, they haven't updated them yet. They do that on Tuesdays, but right now you have Olives as the champ. If everything stays the same, you have Poirier, then you have Gaethje, Chandler, Ferguson, McGregor. You know, Ferguson's going to move down. You probably figure Conor maybe stays where he is and Beneil moves to 5. And everybody, so maybe Conor moves to 5, Beneil moves to 4, maybe Chandler moves to 5. I don't know. It's still a cluster in that division. We need these guys to fight. You know, we just need them to fight. This whole waiting game, it's irritating. It's almost as irritating as these guys being super friendly. I know that's, you know, the sportsmanship aspect as the sport's getting bigger. They, you know, maybe are telling these guys, you know, be a little bit more nice and kind. But listen, how Tony was all over Twitter because he was the opposite. He was the antithesis of what everybody else was doing. I want more of that. This is the fight game. the fights get sold by guys who are going to talk crap. And one of the most beautiful things about this sport is people can talk crap to each other, hype the fight up, and then at the end of a brawl, a battle, even one guy gets beaten down, you almost 99% of the time you see them dap up, they hug, they show respect. That's all in martial arts, and nothing else is really, really like that. You know, people hold grudges at the end of a football game. You know, rarely ever will you be like, you know what? They outclassed me. Good for them. You know, usually people are mad. They're frustrated. You know, they shake hands, but how often do the guys, you know, they snub each other, this, that. That's always a narrative following, you know, a bad loss or a big win, things of that nature. Very rarely do you see guys be, you know, disrespectful to each other after the fight. So that's one of my favorite things about the sport is they can talk shit and then they can come back and they can embrace and they can show mutual respect and all of that. I mean, even Conor and Diaz did it after their second fight that went to decision. It was like a mutual, like, all right, you can hang, I can hang. Good fight, brother. You know, there's that picture of them kind of, you know, embracing, you know, kind of with their arm around each other. You know, I love that. That's one of my favorite parts, but that's not as like exciting or it's not as like motivating or it doesn't give you the warm and fuzzies if they're not pitted against each other, button heads beforehand. So I want to see guys, you know, talk shit. I want to see Justin Gaethje call somebody out. I want to see Justin Gaethje go, you know what? Screw this. I'm fighting everyone. I should be the number one contender. I should be next in line. Screw Conor. He's been out. He's got one loss. The only person I've lost to is the best lightweight potentially ever. Like, let me get back in there. Let me show what I've been working on. Instead, he's making freaking training videos with Trevor Whitman. Well, come on, brother. Let's fight. You only have, he's 30, it's like 30, 32, 33, 34. I mean, we've seen it. You talked about it last week. And Dana said it, Father Time catches up to these guys. It's not the same for everybody. So you don't know when your time is coming. Justin Gaethje, especially a guy who likes to trade blows, as soon your chin goes, and we saw it with Tony, if it goes, it kind of goes. Yeah. You know, these guys need to have a little more urgency to fight. What was that, Keith?
Who knows how much time Justin Gaethje really has left at this level of just absolute like dominant performance, you know, on his feet at least. But, you know, maybe he's taking that mentality like, yeah, I just fought the best lightweight of all time, potentially only lost to him. And that's why I'm deserving to wait for a title shot. You know, just giving you that devil's advocate point of view, probably what Ali has in his ear right now. Because we know that guy loves to just get his fighters like, you know, he loves to talk to him and get him feeling all weird. But yeah, I think just not to talk about Beneil too much, but I think Justin Gaethje with him would be the fight to make. You know, you can elevate both of those guys really. Like Beneil wins that, he's now en route for the title. Justin Gaethje wins that, his next fight would be the belt, in my opinion. But you know, maybe you put Beneil against the loser of Dustin and Conor. I don't know.
I was going to say maybe Chandler gets the loser of Dustin Conor.
That would be a smart move, too, because he was talking about when he beat Dan Hooker how badly he wanted to fight McGregor.
Everybody wants to fight McGregor, but is it because they think they can beat McGregor? Probably. It's because it's a money fight, dude. Yeah. You know, and it's not like, oh, I want to fight him because of status. But also, listen, a lot of people think that just because – you know, somebody came in and chopped Conor's leg and had a nice check left hook, that Conor's dead and gone. Right.
He's not.
I can't wait to see Conor because this is really a prove-it fight for him, right? Not everybody, but there's a lot of people counting Conor out because he lost to the number one contender. I mean, listen, Dustin's really good, you know, and Conor made mistakes in that fight, but let's not forget, Conor had clipped Dustin. Conor looked pretty good in that first round. It was the second round that did him in. You know, he did look good in that first round. If he gets back to that karate stance, keep him at distance, he does have the reach advantage in many of these fights. If he can keep him at distance, the active front leg, I've been preaching this. Listen, there's two types of guys who are going to be really, really successful moving forward. Not to say that other people can't, but generally speaking, you're going to have really, really good wrestlers, a.k.a. Khabib Nurmagomedov, and really good karate kind of distance, active front legs. You know, your shorter, stockier guys, they're going to try to get in, grab the leg, double leg takedown, single leg takedown, use low hips and keep you on the ground and beat you up there. or you're going to have guys who are a little bit more distance and try to use the active front leg to kick you and, use that teep kick. And that plays to Conor's strength. Being 31, 32 years old, it's not like you can say he hit a wall yet. I'm really interested to see Conor McGregor here. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a make or break it fight for his career, but geez, it's going to be really hard to come back if he takes 2 losses back-to-back to Dustin Poirier. That being said, Conor's never lost 2 MMA fights back-to-back. He's never lost to the same guy twice. I think he's really smart. I would pick him to win the fight, but I don't know. That's not one that I would lock. I can't wait to talk about it as we get closer.
See that as closer for sure, because there are a lot of variables for that fight that we'll only see as time goes on. If Conor does go back to that karate style, it's so perfect for him. I was rewatching the fight against, you can't even call it a fight, just utter domination against Jose Aldo. And that 1 minute, he's just bouncing back and forth, karate style, front kick to the front leg.
And then Jose Aldo comes in, pop, left hook, left hook, or wait, no, it was right hook, sorry. And
how do you keep just wrestling guys at a distance? It's with great kicking and just great distance management. So yeah, you're right. Those karate guys, if on a whole, we can.
I was gonna say also the way you beat someone with a better gas tank is by those teep kicks to the body. When your stomach hurts, it's really hard to take those deep breaths and get your air even in between rounds. And that's why, listen, I think Conor from here on out, if he can have that active front leg, I really see him winning a lot of second round, maybe third round fights. He looks to be in great shape. He looks to be in just as good a shape as ever. I wouldn't take him at 170, but
big if from him because he is trying to be more of a boxer now in his later stage in his career. So that's not really working out for him. I hope that he sees the same thing that we see and goes, well, let me go karate style. But I don't know, man. If he decides to come out as a boxer against Dustin Poirier is going to get that W again. But only time will tell, man. That's going to be an exciting fight. I'm really looking forward to July for the UFC.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, you're right. I think that the loser of that matchup should definitely go on to face Chandler. You give Chandler you give him another opportunity to beat another guy in those top couple of rankings because that's a guy I truly believe in this fight against Charles. 8 times out of 10, it goes Chandler's way. And that's just me. I know a lot of people disagree, and obviously it happened Saturday the way it did, so the argument is kind of a moot point. But that dude Chandler, he looked really good in the first round. He flipped Charles a lot.
Got him in trouble.
He had him in a lot of scary moments where I was up out of my seat yelling, "Go, Mike! Go, Mike! Go, Mike!" Unfortunately, he just got clipped by one really, really good one right on the button, and it put him on his heels, allowed him to get up against the fence, and Charles just took over from there. Charles in charge, man. I hate seeing him with that belt. I hate it. As a big Mike Chandler fan, it just makes me so upset. I keep thinking every time I see a picture of that dude, I'm like, yo, that should be my boy. That should be my guy. I feel like my team just lost the Super Bowl or something. But Mike Chandler is truly a guy that I believe, he is a top-level fighter in MMA. And he's going to get a couple of victories, with some of those dudes in the top 5, and he'll be back. He'll be back before we know it.
Well, hey, Charles, he got those veneers, and he's been kicking ass. Conor just got veneers.
Who knows?
Yeah.
You got to protect those fake teeth, right?
Yeah, go again. Another reason, go back to the kickboxing style. Or go back to the karate style. Keep people at distance. Watch the teeth. Maybe they're bright. Under those lights, he gives the guy a smile. What was that? Bang, hits him with a nice left. You never know.
A little Chip Skylark, my shiny teeth and me.
Exactly.
Yeah, those veneers can be a little expensive, so you have to protect those. But you're right, man. And dude, this guy Charles, I don't see him holding that belt for much longer. Maybe against the winner of Dustin and Conor, because Dustin is definitely a way better jiu-jitsu guy than Conor is. But say Conor wins that fight and goes on to fight Charles. Charles is going to put him in a guillotine, or he's going to have him in a triangle choke within a matter of minutes, and it won't be a fight that anybody really wants to see, unless, like we were saying, Conor gets back to that karate style and can find a way to manage distance. But even Charles's striking looked really good. That's just point in fact. He wouldn't have won this fight with a knockout if he wasn't getting better on his feet. You can credit that to shoot boxing. That gym that he trains out at.
Shoot the box.
Yeah, but Who knows, man? I just can't see him after his next fight, which will probably be either Dustin or Connor. You know, you put him up against a guy, say Beneil goes for a little bit of a run, continues that win streak, you put him up against that guy, I feel like that's a very evenly matched fight. Sorry to keep talking about Beneil, but, you know, that's my guy now. I was a fan of his going into this, and especially after that victory. You know, when you get a guy that is willing to go out there, do it nonchalantly, and then make a joke out of it afterwards, like, it's so entertaining.
Well, let me spitball here for a second, right? So we got Connor and Dustin. The winner is likely going to fight Oliveira. Probably that fight's happening in July. Give them maybe 4 months. So July, that's 7, 4, that's 11. That's November, December. Could probably be another championship fight in the lightweight division. Maybe you have Tony Ferguson fight RDA. Could be an interesting matchup.
I'm not even thinking about Tony's future matchups at this point, man. I feel like that dude, he's kind of becoming what I was saying. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy where he's going to be a gatekeeper for this division, if even that. You know, you throw him down and, like, maybe – I don't know if this is deserving of being out of the rankings entirely because he is still Tony. He's still a legend. But, you know, move him down to, like, 10. Have him fight guys that are really up-and-coming contenders trying to make their way through the rankings. And you see how they fare against old Tony Ferguson.
So then how about this then? We have July set. I don't think there's an August card yet. I don't think there's a numbered card in August.
No.
Let's get Justin Gaethje and RDA in there. You know, get Justin Gaethje active so that there is a little bit of contention for who's going to fight Charles Oliveira, right? If Gaethje comes out and just pieces up RDA and it's not even close, he now inserts himself back and say, yeah, I know Poirier won or I know Connor won, but look what I just did. You know, I haven't lost other than to Khabib. Get me in there. You know, he's got to fight. He can't just sit and wait because there's too many good guys in this division.
I know you want to see RDA fight, but I don't think that that's even the fight that he takes. You know, I feel like he is waiting for that. Like we said, he's waiting for that championship fight. He's not going to take a fight against RDA. That's just clear-cut how it is. I feel like the next fight for Justin Gaethje, it's going to be one of those guys that fought on Saturday. It's either going to be Chandler, it's going to be Beneil, or if he gets lucky, his next fight will be against Charles. That's just how it's going to go for him. You know?
Yeah, I don't see it being against Charles unless it's like this time next year.
Yeah, no, it'll be a while because they do have so many future plans kind of not set in stone, but like they're kind of –
I don't know how the UFC gives him a title shot with so many worthy contenders, you know? You got, obviously, the Dustin Connor fight. You know, you're going to get a contender out of there. Whether it's – I mean, that guy's definitely – the winner of that fight is absolutely fighting Charles. Whether it's Tony and it's the money fight or Poirier just proving he's the number one contender again. Like, that guy's going to fight he's going to fight for the belt. Yeah. And then you have Chandler, who maybe can fight the loser of that. You know, obviously Tony's not in the conversation anymore. Who does Gaethje fight then?
Beneil. That's I think the fight to make, you know.
Yeah, I guess he fights Beneil, and then the winner of that fight is the next in line to fight Charles. I think, I like that. I do like that.
Yeah, no, I've been thinking ever since Saturday, like, Beneil versus Gaethje has got to be the way to go. If I'm working, you know, if I'm Sean Shelby or I'm Dana White, that's who I'm pushing forward next because Beneil also did kind of emerge as like a personality too. He's not that talking guy. We even saw it in the press conference. He's just like, dude, Tony, what are you talking about? Like, I kind of love that, you know, that nonchalant, like when a guy's talking shit to you, you're just like,
I broke my student's rib. Well, that's kind of a dick move. Why would you do that?
Exactly. I love that. And if you're going to see if anybody is going to be able to be nonchalant and not let a guy get under their skin, it's against a guy like Tony, especially when he has the whole crowd on his side at the press conferences and at the fight. Even up until he lost, too, everybody's still booing Beneil. So even if you have him just be like kind of a nonchalant kind of heel in it where it's like, yo, this guy doesn't even care. You know, why do we like him? He doesn't bother to even go out there and talk shit. I like that, you know.
So let's think this then. So I like what we're on here. So here's what the UFC does for the lightweight division. Dana White, you're welcome. You got Dustin and Connor, right? Winner gets Charles in, say, November, December. You have Chandler fights the loser of that.
Yeah.
You have Gaethje. We said Gaethje fights who?
Beneil.
Gaethje fights Beneil, maybe on the same card as the championship card, because that's around when Beneil wants to fight, right? So then we have, maybe Charles is still the champ. Maybe it's Dustin. Maybe it's Conor. All three could be. I think that's how you really you clear out that division. Like we said, Chandler has an opportunity to work his way back in by fighting the loser of Conor versus Dustin. We can't really talk too far after that because all the fights are made. But we got Conor versus Conor versus Dustin. Winner fights for the belt in November. We have Gaethje versus Beneil, also in November, December. And we got Michael Chandler fights the loser of Conor and Dustin.
Oh, man, imagine that was all in one night, dude. That would be something for the lightweight division. That would be incredible.
You know what? I like that. You know what? Because I will say this. What I really do like about the PFL is they do like, this card is lightweights and welterweights. This card is heavyweights and light heavyweights. It keeps it all, and it keeps that conversation. So now we can talk about the lightweight division. We know what's going to happen. Honestly, let's do that at Madison Square Garden. Madison Square Garden in November. Headlining fight is Charles Oliveira versus the winner of Conor and Dustin. Then the second matchup is going to be Chandler versus the loser of that. And then the tertiary fight is you have Justin Gaethje and Beneil Dariush. Those are your three cards. Now, maybe Dana doesn't want to do that because it may be too much money. But listen, at the end of the day, the UFC is in prime position to go to the absolute moon. They're in better position than Dogecoin, potentially better than Bitcoin. If I'm the UFC, I have this ESPN contract, more eyes on me than ever before because of what I did, over the pandemic. Let's just keep putting on baller fights, pay the guys a little bit more. At the end of the day, you got to spend money to make money, Dana. And that pay-per-view, I think, is going to sell out. Well, here's the other thing. Well, here's what you do. If it's a Conor fight, it's going to sell. He's fighting for the belt, potentially. And then you have Poirier Chandler, which is a wicked good matchup. And then you throw Beneil and Justin Gaethje on there. Boom. And then you don't need another name on the rest of the card. You don't need another name.
No, you definitely don't, because either way, that's must-watch TV. And it's a good opportunity for them to find some young contenders and throw them on that card early in the beginning. Don't cost a lot of money. And that's another chance to elevate some eyes, put some eyes on guys that are really trying to boost their way up in the public spotlight.
How sick would that pre-fight press conference be? Do a world tour for that. Oh, do that in November for Madison Square Garden. Do a world tour like they did for Khabib and Conor. Have those 6 guys sitting on the stage. Oh, I'm getting excited.
Me too. I don't think it's going to work out the way that we want it to.
Oh, of course not.
But,
we're too smart for them.
Yeah, we are, unfortunately. Dana White, hire us if you're watching this. But yeah, I think that's the way that you shake out the lightweight division. It's a good way to do it. If they were listening to us, I think they would be sold on our argument, but who knows, man. So we do have a little bit of news to talk about after that incredible fight card on Saturday. Personal favorite of mine, I'm a big Megan Anderson fan. I really actually thought that she had a chance against Amanda Nunes. That was totally untrue. I was completely wrong with that. I think it was that plus 700 money line that was really drawing me in. But she's going back to Invicta. She fought there. She's at 8-2 there, and has held that belt before at 145. She's fighting for it again this week. So big ups to her. She didn't really go out on a bad note with the UFC. That fight really elevated her into the public spotlight, so it's a good move for Invicta, getting her back. And overall, I'm just happy to see her fighting again, because when her contract ended with UFC and she became a free agent, it really didn't look like she was going to go anywhere else. She's like a pro video game streamer. I was like, this might just be her career from now on. But big ups to her. Big ups to Invicta for getting her back.
Well, and here's the thing is with all of the stunningly attractive women in the UFC, kind of passing up the UFC to go to bare knuckle.
Yeah.
Is Megan just not think she's attractive enough? I
think Megan's gorgeous. That's just
not gorgeous enough to go to bare knuckle FC. They got Paige Van Zandt over there. They have I wish I could pull the other woman's name, but she's basically, once you get to that level of attractiveness, you don't get more attractive, you just get different.
Yeah.
Listen, I get to, maybe bare knuckle FC turns into like the lingerie football league of fighting. I mean, that certainly looks like the angle they're going for.
I think more so with her going back to Invicta, it speaks a lot to, the money argument, right? I don't know how much they offered her, but when you do have that potential, like, big star that could elevate your promotion to the next level, has that name recognition at this point to some degree, you're going to dish her out a lot of money. And I feel like that's probably what came into play for her. Plus, that she likes holding the belt, right? She just fought for a belt. She's held the belt in multiple different promotions at this point. I think they probably offered her a title fight the second that she got back, and she was just champing at the bit to go get it. It's why not hold a belt again? It doesn't matter where you do it. There is that feeling of elation when you become the champion of anything. So for her, it is that chasing the feeling of winning again and being a champion. So I feel like it's a good move on both of their parts. And then the bare knuckle FC is still relatively new, and Invicta has been around for quite some time as well. So, for her to become the champ over there, it is a little bit more dignified, I guess you could say. She could say in the long run, like, hey, I didn't win a championship in the lingerie, UFC, MMA league. So, who knows? Good move for her. I'm happy for her. I can't wait to watch her fight again because I am a fan. But we do have some other funny stuff to talk about. We got Derrick Lewis. Man, this guy, if he was not in the UFC, he would be a stand-up comedian. He is one of the funniest people I've ever seen cross into this sport. Going back to my balls was hot. That's an all-time quotable moment. Who hasn't wanted to take off their shorts because their balls was hot? And then you have him this weekend doing press conferences at UFC 262, getting the center stage because I'm pretty sure that fight is made already. Francis versus Derrick Lewis, with Stipe fighting the winner of that, which I really like. But, Derrick Lewis, man, I don't know if you caught this one moment. They asked him, would there be a movie about your life, and who would you want to play you? And he said something a little bit heartfelt, it would be an story. Yeah, exactly. But I thought it was funny how he led in with that. It would be a Hallmark movie, maybe a series, just very inspiring to everybody. And then they asked him, who would you want to play you? And he said, John Travolta. That's a pick out of left field, but hilarious.
They said who would play Francis, and I think he said like Susan Sarandon or something. Like
that's hilarious. I loved his rationale behind it too. They were like, why John Travolta? And he was like, because he's bald and I'm bald. Yeah, but hilarious.
He goes on to say he hates anyone with hair.
That's funny.
And then they said, oh, did you watch Francis's last fight? He said, no, I don't want to give that guy money, and I'm not going to stream it. Like, imagine I get locked up for watching Francis's fight. Are you kidding me? Like, no, I'm not giving the guy a goddamn cent, and I'm not going to jail for him either. So, he was full of one-liners. I mean, it's a little bit risque, but I don't know if anyone watching had heard about Caitlin Chookagian and her questionable likes on Twitter. She had said that her account was hacked.
Yeah, she deserves to get put in horny jail for that one. That's just next.
Yeah, it was definitely. I mean, if it was her, she's saying that it's been hacked and it's been hacked for some time. Might be the case. I don't know her to necessarily be a liar, but I mean, if I was caught liking that stuff, that's probably the lie that I would go with. But that notwithstanding, they asked Derrick Lewis, like, hey, she liked a lot of like, basically porn, and some of it, a good majority of it was black porn, and he goes, oh, well, I got a video I could show her. So I mean, he's just full of these one-liners, quick wit off the top of the dome. And ESPN was a little bit cheeky. They showed a couple different, black fighters, and then they showed Caitlin Chookagian. So ESPN kind of maybe an inside joke, maybe a coincidence. I don't know, but I laughed. So
yeah, I'm sure whoever was operating the producer's room was putting a little bit of thought into that one, But yeah. Overall, just funny story, funny weekend in the UFC. We had a lot of great laughable moments, which really helps a lot to elevate this, because who doesn't like to laugh, And when you have these comedians out there, that's the way it should be. There's a lot of great personalities, and I'm happy they're letting them shine. What do you think about Derrick Lewis fighting Francis Ngannou?
I mean, I hope it's a lot. I think it'll be a lot better than last time. Last time, I think both guys were a little bit, maybe not afraid is the wrong word, but definitely wary of the other guy's power. I think going out there this time, I think, Derrick Lewis with that uppercut knockout that he's coming off of, I think that's going to give him a lot of confidence. I mean, he's talking like, he's, supremely confident in his own abilities. Francis thinks he's God. So, and potentially rightly so. Listen, you have 4 guys or 3 guys in the heavyweight division that need to fight. You got Stipe, you got Francis, and you got Derrick Lewis, and those are really the round robin for people who need to fight. Oh, and you got John, So those are your 4 guys.
If he ever comes back.
And we can get into this just a little bit, but listen, I think we're kind of on the opposite side here. But I think you used to be a big John guy, and you admitted it to me off air. I'll let everyone know that you're officially no longer a John fan. Is that correct?
All right. Look, as a fighter, still a fan of John Jones, and still able to support him through like a lot of his troubles because, credit to him for being able to bounce back from all the issues that he's had outside of the octagon. But when he said that he wasn't going to fight anyone but the champion, that definitely turned me off from him a little bit because it's like, you know how this sport operates. We all know that you're John Jones and you're definitely one of the GOATs, without a doubt. He's beat some incredible fighters, and it's just tough because the normal route for anybody in this sport is you get a couple wins, then you can go on to fight for the belt. It almost seemed like they were willing to give him Stipe immediately off rip, another GOAT, like the GOAT in the heavyweight division. But he said that wasn't good enough. And that really kind of turned me off from him as a fan because, like, dude, you know how this works. Just because you've paid your dues, you also have spent a lot of time off. You do need to prove yourself to some degree. And we can't just throw you out there against a guy like Francis Ngannou for $50 million like you want. Like, it just doesn't make sense every day. It gets more unrealistic. Credit to him for like actually putting on the weight and like looking like he could be ready to fight at this point. But that mentality of like, yeah, I'm not going to fight anyone but the champ. It's just not how this works. And he's being very unrealistic right now.
Well, yeah, but number one, in fighting, especially when you're a striker and you add weight, your body feels different. You have to recalibrate the kicks and your punches and, getting into a clinch and working on throws and takedown. You got to recalibrate all of that. And there is such a thing as ring rust, right? And he's coming up on a year, if it hasn't already been a year since he's fought. We talked about ring rust whenever people take, more than a year off. So, if you're John and you want this gigantic payday, but you have all of these question marks around you and you're supremely confident, you're as confident as you think you are, or you're as confident as you're portraying you are, as he always has. Why would you not fight Stipe, take down a legend, and go, yeah, now pay me my money? It seems like a win for him. You get to take out a legend. It's not like they're throwing him to like some no-name that doesn't boost his position, boost his ego. A win over Stipe Miocic would almost definitely solidify him as one of the greatest of all time. Yeah. That's something that Daniel Cormier only did once with basically a check left hook leaving a clinch. If he could outclass Stipe on the feet at a new division in his first fight, listen, dude, he's already better than DC. In terms of that GOAT status conversation. I don't see the downside. I mean, the downside is you're going to lose, is you could lose against Stipe. But if you're going to lose against Stipe, you're probably going to lose against Francis, right? Because Stipe is not going to out-grapple you. Stipe is going to beat you on the feet. And if you let Stipe piece you up, Francis, God forbid he touches you on the chin, you're going to go down. I don't know why you don't take that fight. At least even just for yourself as a quote-unquote tune-up fight. Get used to your body. Or, maybe you take Derrick Lewis. Maybe he's a little bit less scary because he's a little bit more wild. Take Derrick Lewis. It's not like Derrick Lewis is going to out-grapple John Jones. He's got the reach advantage. Yeah. Why not take Derrick Lewis? Right. Why not say, all right, Dana, got you. How about this? I want 10. I want 50 or whatever you're going to pay. I want 50 for Francis. I want 10 to fight at heavyweight, but I'll make you a deal. My other contract, maybe it was 5, right? Let's meet in the middle at 7.5. I'll fight Derrick Lewis. I'll fight Stipe Miocic, whoever. I'll take that guy. You get Stipe to rematch Francis. I'll take winner. and bada boom, bada bing. Also, here's the other thing too: is if you have Stipe take on Francis, they're not going to do a quad. So, then he can go and fight Stipe, which I think is a little bit of a better matchup for John. So, all of that being said, I really don't understand John's mentality here. The only thing that makes sense to me is John doesn't feel that he's big enough yet. So he's got to ask for this exuberant contract just to almost buy himself more time to keep getting bigger. But, I saw that picture of John. I can't remember if I sent it to you or you sent it to me. Homie looks fat. You could definitely tell he's got abs, he's got muscle under there somewhere, and I know that's what you got to do. You got to bulk, then you got to cut. But listen, homie, they were like, oh, John looks so big. I'm like, yeah, but homie don't look good.
Yeah, and his legs still look like chicken legs.
Oh, he looks like he's wearing stilts.
Yeah, he doesn't look like he's squatting or anything. He does look like he's eating a lot, so that's number one to putting on a lot of weight, as I know. But, it's tough, man. He's going to lose a lot of fans if he keeps up these antics. Me, right now, I'm very on the fence about whether or not I'm even still a fan of his anymore. And you have to be, if you're confident enough to fight Francis Ngannou, you have to be confident enough or at least willing enough to fight Stipe.
He's just being annoying.
Yeah, it's a tough look, and people are going to get tired of the antics real quick, not just the fans, but Shelby and Dana White. They're going to get sick of it pretty soon, and I think John Jones forgets the fact that this is not the John Jones Fighting League. It's the UFC, and there's people in charge of it that are not him, and he doesn't get to call every shot. If he's unhappy with it, go fight at Bellator, dude.
What did Dana say? He goes, listen, John Jones can fight Francis, or he cannot fight again. It really, listen, it's not like this is, 10 years ago where John Jones has burst on the scene and he's almost bigger than the UFC. The UFC is bigger than John Jones.
It is. For sure.
He's one of the biggest fighters in the UFC, sure. But the UFC has gotten to a point where it's the only person who's potentially bigger than the UFC is Conor.
Yeah.
And that's his marketability. It's his talking. It's kind of the whole package. If I'm John, I'm like, I just don't see the downside in taking a fight before coming up and fighting for the belt.
Yeah, he knows how this sport works, especially the UFC. You need to pay your dues in order to get that championship fight. That's how it goes. And lucky for him, he's almost been guaranteed a one-fight path to it, and that's still not good enough. So it could be RIP to John Jones in the UFC pretty soon.
I really wouldn't be that upset, especially because his last 3 fights have been less than exciting, much less than exciting.
Right, especially that one against, what's his name, Dominic Reyes. That was just honestly, I thought he might have lost that fight on the cards.
Yes.
I don't think that he is going to come out and beat Francis right off rip if that's what he really believes. Good for him, but yeah, it's just unrealistic. He's living in dreamland right now. He's off the drugs, but he's still talking like he's on them right now. So tough look for him. But I'm excited to see Derrick Lewis fight Francis because I feel like that's the only guy that really matches Francis in his punching power. We saw it with that takedown against Curtis Blades. We all knew that a takedown was coming at some point. I actually called Curtis Blades to win that fight because of his wrestling ability. But, Derrick Lewis is just he prepares very well for every fight. And he is going to watch that Francis fight because he's going to do a lot of film preparation for him. And I even think that Francis is potentially looking at that. We saw his wrestling is getting better. He sprawled against Stipe. And even that is just miles apart than how he's looked in the past. I feel like Francis is probably looking at Derrick Lewis and saying to himself, I can out-wrestle this guy. For Derrick Lewis's sake, I hope that happens because if he goes for a takedown and Derrick Lewis catches him with an uppercut like he did against Blades, he'll be the new champion of the heavyweight division. So I think that's definitely the fight to make, especially when you're coming off such an electric win like that. That's a highlight reel that they'll be able to play forever. And, it does boost Francis's case as well, where it's he can knock out this other beast. But imagine the moments that we have if Derrick Lewis wins that belt. I can't wait to hear some of the stuff that he's going to say about having that hardware. It's going to be absolute comedic gold in the sports world. Will help the UFC just be boosted that. Think about what this is going to do alone having Derek Lewis in that. What's up, Chance? Having Derek Lewis be on that main stage with Francis Ngannou, the amount of talking that's going to go on back and forth, it's going to be so funny. I can't wait. It's going to do that much more for the UFC. So I'm super excited. I
Hey,
can't wait for that fight.
speaking of funny things that happen with the belt, see Dan Miragliotta get kicked in the balls or hitting the balls with the belt.
Yeah, poor him, man. I mean, I'd imagine he's old enough where he has kids and stuff already, but that was a hard shot. If he was a younger man, he might be in a little bit of trouble.
Anybody who didn't see it, when Dana White went to put the belt on Charles, he swung it around his waist and it just hit Dan Miragliotta, the ref, right in the plums.
Yeah, his poor family jewels, man. I felt that through the television. That was rough. But and the look on his face said it all too. I know he had to like stand in the corner and jump on his heels a little bit.
Yeah.
But a couple other things just going on in the world of MMA. Congrats, Conor McGregor, another child. Good for him. Hopefully, with this kid, he gets his edge back. It looked like after his last kid, he kind of lost it a little bit. But we'll see. Maybe this will kind of wake him up a little bit to the fact, like, hey, if my first kid at least thinks I'm a good dad, then maybe the second one will get to see me shit talking a bit. You know, you can always have one good kid and one that's a little bit angry. And then we do have a pretty good fight card coming up this weekend for Fight Night, which isn't really, I mean, after the last we had Waterson versus Rodriguez, I was kind of starting to think that maybe the fight nights were falling off a little bit, but they really pulled it back with this one. We got Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt. We have Jack Hermanson on this card. We got Carla Esparza on this card. So, you know, for longtime fans of the UFC, it's almost like a reward to you. There won't be as many eyes on this event, but the longtime fans will be watching for some of these household names that you know, they've been talking about forever. I'm super pumped. How about you?
Yeah, I can't wait. I really like Cody No Love. I like him in this fight. Can't wait to get to doing some of the breakdowns. Can't wait to watch a bunch of Rob's old fights. Can't wait to watch a bunch of Cody's old fights and go back and look at it. Speaking of Cody No Love, obviously he had that big blow up that the what do you call it? He had that rage, not rage. What am I talking about? He had the oh my God, I can't talk. Him and TJ Dillashaw, they had a thing back and forth, so TJ Dillashaw should be coming back in the next few months. He was supposed to have a fight 2 weeks ago, and that's why the Michelle Waterson fight had to come in there. But, he got a pretty nasty cut over his eye, probably a concussion too. So you got to figure he's out of training for probably about a month or 2 months there. So maybe he'll be on the August card. Maybe a September card. So I'm really excited for that. I'm really excited to see TJ Dillashaw fight. But Cody No Love, he had a phenomenal knockout in his last fight. I mean, he just kind of ducked down. The guy threw a hook, and then he came up there with that nice left hook. It was a left hook to end the round there. I mean, it was absolutely incredible. It was up there. It was talked about one of the knockouts of the year. So I'm really excited to see him. And, hey, listen, Rob Font, he's a guy that maybe not a lot of casuals know. He's a really good fighter too. I mean, if you can look up compilations of Rob Font's knockouts, and they are some very impressive, vicious. I was trying to say those two words and I conflated them. Is very impressive and vicious knockouts of his own. So we're in for some fireworks this weekend. If and it's free, it's live on. Well, not free, but if you watch ESPN, if you have ESPN Plus, you can watch it. It's going to be some fireworks. Tune into our show later this week. And we'll break it down for you. I'll give you some locks. I'll tell you who I think are going to win some, maybe more of the toss-up fights. Don't hold me to those. But, I'm going to give you some locks. And, last week, if I had told you which ones were my locks, I'm basically I'm a bank giving out free, no interest loans. I'm also not a financial advisor. So.
Yeah, I mean, same over here. I didn't even have to say what was the lock, what was it. For those first two, like I said before, simply pick against Tom. That was it. But for those props and everything else on the main card, did really well there. But yeah, this bantamweight division definitely needs a little bit of shaking up, and that's why I'm most excited for this. That's why I was really excited for the Dillashaw-Sandhagen fight, because everybody in the sport, every fan recognizes the fact that Aljamain Sterling is a paper champ. I know he's not watching this, but I hope he is, because then maybe he'd go on Twitter and talk about us and say we don't know what we're talking about or something, and that would put eyes on us, But Aljo, dude, you stink. You were losing that fight, and the only reason you won it is because of miscommunication and a language barrier. That's it. But yeah, we're gonna
You're
see.
losing that fight anyway, too.
Yeah, but we're gonna see this bantamweight division get shaken up over the next few months, and especially like just in time for a potential Henry Cejudo comeback. He's been teasing it on social media for the past couple of weeks. He's been getting to a couple of spats with Peter Yan. Today, most notably, hilarious. There's been that video of Habula Magomedov. You might recognize him as he's got a genetic disorder that makes him look like a very young kid, but he's actually an 18-year-old man. And there's some kind of fight promotion going on with the Dagestanis right now where they have these little people fighting each other. Absolutely must-watch television. I don't know where you would even find that on the internet, but I'm sure after that fight happens, if it does happen, it's going to be incredible. But Peter Yan took that video and said, winner of this fight gets Henry Cejudo. And Henry Cejudo responded by saying, oh, Peter, don't knee me when I'm down. Love the banter. I honestly...
Wait, hold on. Those were not 8-year-old kids?
No. Habula and the other guy, I only know Habula because he's been on Habib's Instagram a few times, and he's like very close. There's a famous video, a TikTok, of one of the Dagestanis at like a birthday party bending down talking to a little kid, and that dude Habula comes and runs over, punches him in the face, and then runs away, and it looks like a little kid. But all respect to him, man. He's a good guy. He's friends with, as far as I know, I mean, he's got some funny pictures out there on the internet.
You stop?
Chance should get the winner of that fight. That would be pretty funny.
He's been going crazy. That's why I had to pick up the computer. Hey, listen. We're working on our professionalism here, but every once in a while it's cool to have a little fun. And the dog's freaking out behind me, so I wish I was.
Dog.
Wait till we get the studio built.
Those guys are 18.
Never would have guessed.
No, I mean it's crazy.
Andy Milanakis syndrome.
Yeah, it's even more extreme than that. But yeah, he's been all over Habib's Instagram before. There's a lot of funny pictures of him like holding guns up with the Dagestanis and driving cars around. Yeah. No, he's actually got one where he's holding 2 Glocks.
Oh my God.
Yeah, sitting on like the hood of a BMW, probably Habib's. But
Habib drives around in a Toyota truck, and he still lives in the same house he did when he was growing up. That guy does not spend a dime.
No, good for him. That's generational wealth that he's been building up between the endorsements and the fighting and everything. Family man, honestly. He lives with his parents and his wife and his mom.
He has like a telephone network in Russia. It's called like Eagle Wireless or something like that.
That's awesome. Good for him.
He has like a cable company. Like, it's ridiculous.
That's awesome. All love to Habib. One of my favorites of all time. Didn't like him at first, but he really grew up.
Location.
Yeah.
I'm going to smash your boy.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites. What you do with that bus? But yeah, this dude Habula Magomedov, that video was funny. Henry Cejudo gets the winner. This guy, I was cracking up, and Cejudo, coming back a little bit. I really hope that Cejudo does come back. And in my eyes, Peter Yan is still deserving of that belt. If it wasn't for that mishap, he'd still be holding it. And I feel like that would be a good fight to make for like a Cejudo comeback, would be him versus Peter Yan, because Peter Yan is very good. Former champ, probably will be the champ again soon, in my opinion. He's just so much better than everyone else in that division. Or if you really want to get eyes on it, on a young guy, who's already making a name for himself in that division, plus Cejudo, the double champ, the Triple C, have him fight Sean O'Malley. Sean O'Malley would get totally outclassed in that fight.
Oh, God.
But I think that, who knows? Cejudo, like you were saying, there is ring rust involved, rust versus rust. I feel like that would be a fun fight to make, and I don't know if Sean O'Malley is protecting himself by not taking some fights, or if the UFC is trying to protect him because he is a personality and he's becoming a name. But I feel like that would be a fun fight to watch, just because of the two personalities that we'd have going back and forth at each other. Either that, or you do Peter Yan. I feel like Peter Yan is going to learn English just to shit talk Henry Cejudo in English. So
that's what Canelo did.
Yeah, he learned English for Billy Joe Saunders.
He has to talk shit.
Yep. And then he was using it after the press conference too, telling people, get the fuck out. But yeah, I feel like that would be a fun way to shuffle up the bantamweight division a bit. It's like the John Jones argument. You can't just throw Cejudo out there against Aljo, even though he'd strip Aljo of that belt within minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Still excited for this weekend, though. It's going to give us a nice little bit of insight into how this division's going to shake up over the next few months.
Hey, listen, we said it before that, when you put on fights all the time, they can't all be winners, but geez, at the way these cards are looking, UFC's hitting at like 80% a clip. There's maybe one bad fight card every like 8 or 9 good ones. So, I mean, listen, man, the UFC is where it's at. And if you're not on board yet, get on board. The train's leaving the station.
Absolutely. And there is only one place to get the absolute best UFC coverage. That is over here at Pickin Fights through the Russo's Playbook Network. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. Follow us both on Twitter. We'll have our handles up on the screen. Tom, have a good night. Thanks for coming back as always. We look forward to giving you another episode, giving our picks for this fight night this weekend. Thank you.